Imagine the labor and danger involved in piloting an early automobile. To start the automobile alone, you would need to crank the engine, which could take up to several minutes. There was a much higher risk of engine failure and fires, and there was a much higher risk of mortality than today. They took these risks because they knew the power of the automobile to transform life as they knew it. The motor wagon, made by Karl Benz in 1886, would rapidly change the world by increasing economy, by making jobs for people, and by revolutionizing the transportation of goods and people. This invention would make the world radically different. Without cars, our world wouldn't be the same. Benz was a German engineer who had a passion for building machines. He had already created several successful inventions, but his most famous creation was yet to come. In 1885, Benz began working on his most ambitious project yet, a gasoline-powered vehicle. It was a risky venture, as many people doubted that such a vehicle could ever be practical. Go back to the early 1870s. The Industrial Revolution was starting. New inventions were being made, but the world still needed a way of fast, easy, and reliable transportation. The steam engine and the first gasoline-powered engine had been invented shortly before. These inventions sparked an idea in an inventor named Karl Benz. At the time, horse-drawn carriages were the primary mode of transportation. They were slow, uncomfortable, and often unreliable. The quest for improved transportation had led to experiments with steam-powered vehicles, but their bulkiness and maneuverability issues posed significant challenges. Others had tried building motorcycles, but they were dangerous and difficult to control. The public was skeptical that any new form of transportation could ever be practical. Despite the challenges, inventors and engineers continued to experiment with new ideas. In 1876, George Brayton introduced the first two-stroke gasoline engine, precursor to the four-stroke engine later developed by Gottlieb Daimler. However, challenges still remained, especially regarding the choice for suitable fuel for efficient vehicle operation. In 1885, Karl Benz would use the recently invented engine to make his first motor-powered vehicle. But he had many problems that he still needed to solve. One of his main problems that he needed to figure out was what fuel he would use to power his vehicle efficiently. Later, a house fire erupted nearby his workshop. The fire was created by a highly explosive fuel called ligroin. Ligroin was a common cleaning agent used almost 150 years ago. This solved his problem. He could use ligroin to power his car. This was good, but it wasn't safe. Early cars weren't safe and had a much higher risk of catching on fire. With this solved, he added other innovations like a simple carburetor, electrical ignition system, and water cooling. On January 29, 1886, Karl Benz was awarded the German patent DRP 37435 for his invention. This was a massive success for him and his wife, but people were still very skeptical that a motor wagon could ever be useful. Benz struggled to market his motor wagon to the public, but his wife, named Bertha Benz, knew the importance of the motor wagon, and she knew that it needed a public stunt for it to take off. Later, in 1888, Bertha and her two sons took off on a 120-mile round trip to her home of Pischfordsheim, Germany. During the journey, she faced many challenges, such as carburetor issues and electrical shorts. She took a detour to a small town called Weissla. Here, with her clever thinking and ingenuity, she fixed the carburetor with her hat pin and an electrical short with her belt. Bertha was Karl Benz's main investor and co-engineer. Without her, the motor wagon wouldn't be around today. She was a pioneer on and off the road, becoming the first woman driver. She was later inducted into the Automobile Hall of Fame in 2016. The automobile had many impacts on the world. One of the biggest impacts that the car created was making transportation easier for the everyday person. Many people said that if you wanted to travel a short distance to shop or go into the city, you would have to take a train or a horse. If you want to take a train, you would have to plan a week or two in advance, but if you wanted to take a horse, they were slow and often unreliable. But with the brand new motor wagon, you could travel far distances in a relatively short amount of time, and you didn't have to plan weeks in advance. This greatly impacted people's lives because they could practically go anywhere now. People had way more freedom, and they enjoyed this so much that they would take drives in the car just for fun. Freedom is great and all, but how did the car greatly impact our Industrial Revolution? Cars impacted the Industrial Revolution by connecting towns and cities by the transportation of materials. Cities could get the resources they needed faster, like coal, lumber, and metal. This resulted in cities like New York being able to grow rapidly. Other smaller towns as well also grew because information, materials, and people could get to these towns faster. Another way that the car impacted the Industrial Revolution is because it opened up a whole new industry for jobs. Car companies have made more than 13.5 million jobs, and the car industry alone is worth $2.86 trillion. A major reason to why this car industry grew so large is due to the innovation of Henry Ford's assembly line. The assembly line divides tasks among workers, speeding up the production by having each worker specialize in one step, but an impact doesn't necessarily have to be good. Back when the car was just gaining recognition, there were no road rules. For example, you didn't have to wear a seatbelt, or there were no official lanes for cars. Today, we have made many rules to keep people safe, but the automobile has still caused more than 30,000 deaths a year, and there is a total of 5 million car crashes a year. Companies have spent millions of dollars trying to make their cars safer, but it will never terminate deaths and crashes. An additional reason why automobiles had a negative impact on the world is that they produce millions of pounds of emission a year. A single gallon of gas produces 19 pounds of CO2. CO2 weakens our atmosphere and heats up our world. Companies are trying to move to more fuel-efficient and environmentally friendly cars. Electric cars were made surprisingly around the same time as Karl's first car. They started to rise in popularity with the company Tesla that makes electric vehicles. Additionally, to reduce CO2 production, governments are starting to enforce laws on how much CO2 a car can produce. Shifting gears to a more positive perspective, racing cars have brought a significant impact on our communities, expanding beyond the racetrack and into our daily lives. The sport has brought people together, creating a sense of community among fans and enthusiasts. Racing events have become popular gathering places, fostering a shared passion for speed, competition, and cars. The sport has also inspired the creation of car clubs, racing teams, and organizations, providing opportunities for people to come together and share their interests. Racing cars has had a positive impact on local economies. Racing events generate significant revenue from ticket sales to sponsorships and merchandise, creating jobs and stimulating economic growth. The sport has also led to the development of new businesses and industries, such as high-performance parts manufacturing, racing apparel, and motorsports-related services. In conclusion, Karl Benz's motor wagon, born in the crucible of labor, emerged as a catalyst for global transformation. The risks faced by early drivers, from the cranking of engines to the looming threat of fires and engine failures, in comparison to the enduring impact of the automobile on the world, from revolutionizing transportation and fueling economic growth and sparking technological innovations. The motor wagon's legacy endures as a testament to human ingenuity and the unavoidable movement of progress.